Henry Ford was not born into wealth. He was not surrounded by privilege, influence, or opportunity. Yet his ideas reshaped the modern world more than kings, politicians, or generals ever did. Before Henry Ford, cars were toys for the rich. After Henry Ford, they became tools for the world. But this transformation did not begin with factories or engines. It began with a question that refused to leave his mind. Why must ordinary people struggle their entire lives just to survive? Henry Ford was born in 1863 on a small farm in Michigan. Life there was simple, repetitive, and physically exhausting. Days began early. Work never truly ended. From a young age, Ford saw how human labor consumed time, energy, and hope. While other children accepted farm life as fate, Ford questioned it. He was drawn not to the fields, but to machines. When something broke, he didn't walk away. He took it apart. Clocks, watches, tools. Piece by piece, he studied how things moved, connected, and worked together. Not to destroy them, but to understand them. Formal education never held his attention. Books explained ideas, but machines revealed truth. By the age of 12, Ford had repaired his first watch completely on his own. That moment shaped him. He learned patience, he learned precision, and most importantly, he learned that systems, not strength, determine outcomes. As a teenager, Ford left the farm. He entered machine shops where the noise was constant and the work unforgiving. Here, mistakes were costly. Here, efficiency mattered. Ford absorbed everything. He studied engines, gears, and motion. He noticed how much time was wasted by poor design, how effort was lost through chaos instead of organization. And slowly, an idea formed. Machines should serve people, not exhaust them. Years later, Ford joined the Edison Illuminating Company. There, he met men who believed innovation could change society. Working under Thomas Edison sharpened Ford's discipline and focus. But even while employed, his true work happened at night. In his free time, Ford experimented relentlessly. He failed repeatedly. Engines broke, designs collapsed. Progress was slow. Then, in 1896, he succeeded. A gasoline-powered, horseless carriage came to life. It was loud, it was rough, it was far from perfect. People laughed, but Ford didn't see what it was. He saw what it could become. Henry Ford's early life did not prepare him for comfort. It prepared him for resistance. Every machine shop taught him the same lesson. Progress is paid for in mistakes. Ford did not succeed quickly. In fact, he failed publicly and repeatedly. His early business ventures collapsed. Investors lost patience. Partners walked away. Each failure carried a message, but only if one was willing to listen. Ford learned that innovation without structure leads to chaos. Ideas alone were not enough. They required discipline, repetition, and control. He noticed something most people ignored. Hard work did not guarantee progress. Only organized effort did. Many men around him were skilled. Few were systematic. Ford became obsessed with one question: how can work be simplified without reducing quality? This obsession shaped everything. He refined designs endlessly, removed unnecessary complexity, eliminated wasted motion. Failure was not emotional to him. It was informational. Where others saw defeat, Ford saw data. As years passed, his vision sharpened. He no longer dreamed of inventing the best car. He dreamed of creating the most efficient system to build one. Speed mattered. Consistency mattered. Cost mattered. Ford understood something radical for his time. If a product could be made affordable, demand would multiply naturally. This belief put him in conflict with nearly everyone. Competitors mocked him, investors doubted him, experts said it was impossible. Ford ignored them. He trusted process over opinion. He believed that mastery came from repetition, not inspiration. And repetition, when controlled, becomes power. Henry Ford's time working under Thomas Edison was more than employment. It was exposure to a mindset. Edison believed that experimentation was not chaos, but controlled curiosity. Failure was expected. Failure was measured. Failure was refined. Ford absorbed this philosophy deeply. He learned that progress does not come from sudden brilliance, but from relentless iteration. One improvement at a time, one inefficiency removed after another. Yet Ford's ambitions extended beyond innovation. He wanted scale. In the early automobile industry, cars were built slowly by hand. Craftsmanship was valued, but production was limited. Each vehicle was expensive. Each buyer was wealthy. Ford rejected this model completely. He believed luxury was inefficiency disguised as pride. What mattered was reliability, simplicity, affordability. This belief cost him everything, more than once. His early companies collapsed. Capital vanished. Critics grew louder, but Ford remained unmoved. He understood that failure was not proof of impossibility. It was proof of incomplete systems. Each collapse revealed flaws in organization, timing, or structure. Ford corrected them methodically. He simplified designs, reduced parts, standardized components. Instead of inventing endlessly, he began perfecting relentlessly. This shift changed everything. In 1903, after years of rejection and disappointment, the Ford Motor Company was founded. There was no celebration, no certainty, only commitment. Early production was slow, sales were modest, but Ford watched carefully. He observed how workers moved, where time was lost, where fatigue replaced focus. The problem was never effort, it was design. Ford realized that asking one man to build an entire car was inefficient. The human mind tires before the body does. So he asked a dangerous question. What if work moved instead of workers? At the time, this idea sounded absurd. Factories were built around craftsmen, not systems. But Ford ignored tradition. He studied slaughterhouses, warehouses, any operation where flow mattered more than individual skill. And slowly, the idea took shape. Divide labor, simplify motion, eliminate waste. This was not about speed alone, it was about control. Ford believed that when a process is controlled, outcomes become predictable. Henry Ford did not invent the automobile, but he reinvented how the world built everything. By the time the Model T was introduced, Ford had reached a radical conclusion. Complexity was the enemy of progress. Cars did not need to be elegant or customizable. They needed to be reliable, simple, and affordable. The Model T reflected this philosophy perfectly. It was sturdy, easy to repair, and built from standardized parts. But even this was not enough. Ford understood that true transformation would not come from the product alone, but from the process behind it. In traditional factories, workers moved from station to station, carrying tools and parts, wasting time and energy. Ford reversed this logic completely. Instead of workers moving, the work itself would move. This idea became the moving assembly line. Each worker performed one simple task repeatedly, mastering it completely. Motion was reduced, errors decreased, speed increased dramatically. What once took over 12 hours to build could now be done in less than 2. Costs dropped rapidly. Prices fell. Suddenly, the automobile was no longer a luxury reserved for the wealthy. Ordinary families could afford cars. Farmers could travel farther. Workers could live farther from factories. Cities expanded. Roads multiplied. Society reorganized itself around mobility. The assembly line did more than produce cars. It reshaped time, labor, and daily life. Critics accused Ford of dehumanizing work, but Ford saw it differently. He believed that poorly designed labor was more exhausting than repetition. When work was simplified and standardized, fatigue decreased and productivity increased. The system did not require extraordinary talent, only consistency. This opened industrial work to millions who had been excluded before. The assembly line became a symbol of modernity, copied across industries worldwide. Factories, food production, electronics, and logistics. As production accelerated and profits increased, Henry Ford made a decision that shocked the industrial world. At a time when factory workers were underpaid, overworked, and easily replaced, Ford announced a daily wage of $5, more than double the industry standard. Critics called it madness. Economists warned it would destroy the company. Competitors mocked him. But Ford understood something deeper than numbers. He believed that workers were not merely tools of production. They were participants in the system. High turnover was costly. Exhausted workers made mistakes. Unstable lives created unstable factories. By paying workers enough to live with dignity, Ford reduced turnover dramatically and increased loyalty. Productivity surged. Workers arrived on time. Focus improved. Quality increased. But this decision had another consequence, one Ford welcomed. His own employees could now afford the cars they built. Demand grew organically. The factory fed the market, and the market fed the factory. This was not charity. It was strategic intelligence. Ford believed that prosperity should circulate, not concentrate. When wages rise, consumption rises. When consumption rises, production expands. This feedback loop strengthened both workers and the company. Still, Ford was not without controversy. His strict rules, personal beliefs, and rigid management style drew criticism. He demanded discipline, order, and conformity. Some saw him as visionary, others saw him as controlling. Yet even his critics acknowledged the results. Productivity records were shattered. The automobile became woven into everyday life. Ford had proven that treating workers as valuable assets. As Henry Ford grew older, his influence extended far beyond automobiles and factories. What he had truly built was a way of thinking. He believed that progress was not driven by luck, privilege, or talent alone, but by systems designed to reduce waste and amplify effort. Ford often said that thinking was the hardest work there is, which is why so few people engage in it seriously. His life reflected that belief. He questioned assumptions others accepted. He simplified what others complicated. He focused on process while others chased results. Even when critics attacked him and history judged some of his views harshly, his core contribution remained undeniable. He proved that ordinary people, given the right tools and systems, could achieve extraordinary productivity. He proved that efficiency could democratize opportunity. Ford did not see success as a destination, but as a continuous refinement of method. Mistakes were inevitable, but stagnation was unforgivable. His factories eventually changed, his company evolved, and the world moved forward, yet the principles he demonstrated never expired. Wherever work is organized, wherever systems replace chaos, wherever simplicity defeats excess, the shadow of Henry Ford remains. He did not merely build cars, he reshaped how humanity works, moves, and lives. And his greatest lesson was never about machines. It was about the mind. Think clearly, design intelligently, act persistently. Progress is not accidental, it is engineered.